Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. They never believed me. This is a long one, buckle up. I still don't know why I had to go through this, but I can assure you with every ounce of my being that this was real. About 8 years ago, my family moved into a new house that was abandoned halfway through building it. I was so excited because I finally would get my own room. I was 10 when we moved in and I had 4 younger siblings. I know, I have a big family, lol. After getting settled and living in the house for about a month, my family paid a casual trip to my grandparents' house that was only about 5 minutes away from ours. Now, I've been to their house thousands of times and even lived there when my parents were looking for a home. There was nothing out of the ordinary here, except it was a mansion in the middle of a ranch. It went as any other evening would go, and my dad buckled us kids up in our minivan. He walked back to the front porch to say goodbye to Grandma and Grandpa with my mom. While sitting in the van, I noticed a man standing on the balcony above us, just staring at me through the window directly above my parents. I nudged my sister and pointed, and she saw him too. We laughed and waved, thinking it was my grandpa, but he didn't smile back. We didn't think anything of this, and when we got home, my sister brought it up to my mom. She panicked, telling my dad to call the police, thinking that someone broke into their house. I told them it was Grandpa, but they responded, "No, Molly, we were talking to both Grandpa and Grandma on the front porch, remember?" I was immediately confused, but after the sheriff came by, a quick inspection pushed all anxiety out the door, and we never talked about it again. But things only got worse from then on. I felt like a person was breathing down my neck at every waking moment. I saw orbs in the bathroom mirrors and couldn't go in there without the doors open. I started asking my mom really strange questions like, did someone die in this house? And when she said the home was brand new, I would ask her, well, did someone die while building this place? Of course, my parents thought nothing of this and ignored all red flags. About a year later, I was home alone watching my siblings and they all fell fast asleep on the couch watching movie. Suddenly, I look up to see a figure. No, a small child on the stairs, just staring at me, holding the bars, crouched down. My heart lurched into my throat as I whipped my head around to count my siblings. I called my mom, begging her to come home, so they did. But while I waited, the child never moved. I tried to tell my mom what happened, but she claimed it was a dream or my imagination. It hurt to know I was really alone in this. Things just kept getting so much worse though. I would have panic attacks late at night, hallucinations of people chasing me and trying to kill me. I sleepwalked all over the house and always ended up over my parents' bed, just staring at them. I had a recurring dream of a spirit taking me away from my family, dragging me out of my house. I would see people out of the corner of my eye, and of course, more horrid incidents occurred. One night, I was asleep when I heard my door creak open. Now, let me explain the layout of my childhood bedroom. My bed was centered in the middle of my room, with a desk on one side and a 16-gallon fish aquarium on the other. This aquarium lit up my entire room, so it was never dark. I had a dresser across from me, with a door across from my aquarium. I heard the door creak open slowly, and I jolted awake, staring at the door. The child walked in, but there was something seriously wrong. It was pitch black, a silhouette, with ragged hair and a nightgown on. I know, typical demon stuff. I had never been more petrified in my entire life. I could move or scream or anything. The thing walked slowly until it reached my aquarium, only a foot away from my head. It lifted an arm and tapped the glass, then started rocking back and forth. I pulled the covers over my head and tried to breathe. I was terrified. I don't know how long I was under the covers, but after what felt like hours, I peeked to see nothing there, but my door still wide open. I lunged out of bed and ran all the way down to my parents' room below me. I screamed and cried, trying to convince them what happened, but they insisted it was my sister. I refused to step foot in my room for days. A week later, I finally felt better about the incident. My dad and I rearranged all the furniture in my room to make me feel safe. My bed was in a corner, my desk was turned around facing my room, and the aquarium had a dim light, so I couldn't see my room. I was changing into a paranoid little girl who could barely step foot in her own home. My mom noticed too. She was worried, but thought my anxiety was getting worse because I was having panic attacks every other night, screaming about the strange dreams I had. Finally, one morning my dad called everyone into the living room, very pale and very serious. "I have something to tell you," he said, "but I don't want you to be scared. It's over now." He went on to tell us about the night prior. He was woken up by my mom, who left the room to check on the baby upstairs. Suddenly, he was covered by a dark mist that was pressing him into his bed, strangling him. He yelled, but no one heard him. He tried to fight back, but he was paralyzed. As a religious man, he used the power of God to command the spirit to leave and never come back again. My mom heard nothing when she came back. Once he finished, my 6-year-old sister came out with her own experiences. Yes, there's more, and again, it gets worse. My mom wasn't telling me things. My sister's friends, all of them, refused to step foot in her room. "I don't like that room," they would say. "There is something very bad in there." They would always ask to go home early and never want to come back. One of the kiddos claimed that a scary girl ran out of the closet and out of the bedroom into the hallway and didn't come back. Even my sister had her own incident. There were 3 men telling me that I wasn't leaving. They were laughing at me. Even Maggie, who was only 3, was crying. So I crawled into her crib and covered her eyes. They never went away. I was shocked that I wasn't the only one, and no one was sharing this with me. I was angry and scared. Why would they not believe me? I was alone, dealing with this demon for years. So many questions have come into my mind. It was a demon, no doubt. Was I sleepwalking because I was possessed? Research concludes that for me, I indeed, very possibly, could have been possessed. Demons take the form of children, that explains the girl. Every time I share this story, the feelings come back, and the trauma comes back. When I tell this to my friends, they cry. I revisit that night in my room when the spirit was only inches away, taunting me. This has scared me for the 8 years that I've tried to move on, and I just can't. But why me? Why was it so obsessed with me? And why did it follow my family home? I guess we will never know. Thank you, Parking Blueberry 60, the author. I have a ghost roommate who refuses to be evicted. I should preface this by saying I'm pagan, or something like pagan. Also, I live alone with my 2 cats. This is a story, and also looking for some advice on what to do if anyone has any. Over the summer last year, my fan began turning itself off when I woke up. I sleep with my fan on because I like the cool air, and I turn it off when I wake up. The fan would turn itself off when my eyes fluttered open. It's not like I stirred and shook the fan. At first I thought it was a wiring problem, but the fan only turned itself when I woke up. Naps, overnight sleeping, it didn't matter. It's a newer fan too, so it's not like it's old. After a month and feeling spooked, I burned some sage and the fan stopped turning itself off. That was my first piece of evidence that something was coexisting with male mediatory. After that, things in my bathroom began falling on their own. The decor on my walls, shampoo bottles, all suddenly started to randomly fall throughout the day. That went on for a week before the sound startled me one night and I saged the bathroom. Then it suddenly stopped. Evidence 2. Then the lights in my kitchen began to flicker between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. I leave my kitchen lights on all day because it's a very dark room and I'm scared of the dark. I know. The lights flickered for a few hours only during the night and only after I saged my bathroom. That's when I felt like I was definitely living with a ghost or something. Every month since last July, the paranormal activity gradually became stronger. I have a giant cork board wall with hundreds of acrylic charms pinned in it. One day I came home and heard one of the charms had fallen. I checked and saw that my ghost roomie had taken a tack out, let the charm fall, and put the tack back a couple inches to the right. When I passed through the doorways in my apartment, I felt like I was walking through something like a curtain, like there was definitely a presence chilling in my doorways. My cat would sometimes just stare at the doorways. The next month, I was awoken by a man's voice leaning into my ear and whispering, "Hey." After that night, I began feeling a pressure on me when lying in my bed, like something was on top of me. Eventually, I consulted a mutual on Twitter who is a witch and deals with this sort of stuff. They did some poking around and told me that my ghost roomie is a man with a lot of mental trauma who is attached to me and the apartment. It lined up because he seemed to be messing with me, but never my cats. I used to play with spirits in the astral plane when I was a stupid teenager, and at first I thought he was one of them. But I think he's a ghost that latched onto me from somewhere. Not too sure if he's always been here and he's been dormant for years, or if all the negative energy I amassed during the beginning of the pandemic drew him to me. Either way, he's very active now, that was clear. In December, I came home from work and saw my cat run under my bed from me. I leaned down to look for him and he wasn't there. Both of my cats were in the other room. I thought I was losing it until one of my cats came into my room and acknowledged that something was under my bed that I couldn't see, like he was staring at the bird from the window or something, but I couldn't see it. I'm convinced that ghost roomie manifested himself and appeared before me. Last week, when I was walking through a doorway in my apartment, my vision went completely black for a split second. I saw images of a figure approaching me and my body felt like it was being wrapped by a giant spider. It was at that point that I felt like my ghost roomie was malevolent, and I consulted my witch Twitter mutual for help. They told me to sage the entire apartment and tell him to leave. I did that and things went back to normal. Last night, one of the bathroom decor fell and the kitchen lights began flickering at midnight. They did some big flickers, as if my ghost roomie was telling me that he's still here, set a chill down my spine and startled me, but the cats seem unbothered. He hasn't attacked my cats or bothered them at all, though they do seem to acknowledge him, so I'm not terribly worried as long as he leaves them alone. After the attack, where I blacked out for a split second though, that was my big concern, and I know he's strong enough to tamper with objects and electricity. I keep trying to get him to leave, and he won't. If anyone has any advice on what to do, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, RawBeansP, the author. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you already haven't, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any new episodes. See you again soon, and until then, please, be safe.